Hello and welcome to episode 20 of Filmstop. I am truly grateful that you have stuck around with me and you're back for episode 20. I know, you hate me for taking so long between episodes, all 10 of you. I appreciate you, and I have gotten feedback that I need to come back and do my recordings and my let out episodes more often. No excuses, just life. But the good thing is that I have been consuming a lot of content, so I have a lot to talk about, and it's all over the board. So I thought it might make sense to, take a step back and maybe do a Filmstop recommends video. Before we dive into our recommendations, though, please rate, review, like, share, subscribe. I know I'm asking a lot, but please do. If you're listening to this and you've stuck around with me, I truly appreciate it. And as a gesture of a little more faith, hit that like button or share or subscribe button, whatever you have on there. Okay, with that, let's dive into our Filmstop Recommends episode. For those of you who've forgotten our format, which was only really done twice, so I don't blame you, but for those of you who haven't remembered our format, basically what we're going to do is talk about one piece of content that I highly recommend from different sort of consumption outlets for media and content. I will be talking movie and TV in this case, and I will be giving you avenues to where you can watch these. The first one we're going to start with, this first half is going to be English, and then the second half is going to be Hindi. So for the English content, the first one we're going to talk about is a movie that you need to watch in the theaters. Actor Rick Dalton gained fame and fortune by starring in a 1950s television western, but is now struggling to find meaningful work in a Hollywood that he doesn't recognize anymore. He spends most of his time drinking and palling around with Cliff Booth, his easygoing best friend and longtime stunt double. Rick also happens to live next door to Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate, a filmmaker and budding actress whose futures will forever be altered by the members of the Manson family. Yes, that's the intro to the movie. The movie is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I wanted to read it out like it maybe would have been read out in the 1950s when a new movie would come out, and they probably had commercials running somewhere on TV. I have no idea how, I know how, but I don't know what the process was around that. So I just tried to read it out like what I thought, I think they would have sounded like. Anyways, that's the synopsis of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the latest venture by Quentin Tarantino, who says that it's his second to last venture. So all he has is one more in him. That's a separate topic of discussion, and we may get into that. I actually don't know if we will or not. But the main reason why I want to recommend this movie is because if you even a little bit love Hollywood, like just a little, not too much, just a little, a sliver, you need to watch this movie because it's everything that a true movie buff, a person who is in love with the glamour and the glitz and the lights and the fame and the power and the money and the ageism and the sexism and all, not in love with those things, but is in love with everything except for the ageism and sexism. But the ageism and sexism is a part of Hollywood which exists. So if you are in love with all the good parts of Hollywood and acknowledge all the bad parts of Hollywood, you're probably a person who is too deeply invested in the world of Hollywood. In that case, you need to watch this movie because it's really a love letter by Quentin Tarantino to the film industry. It's Tarantino, so it has to be based around something that is at least mildly controversial. So it is based around the Sharon Tate murder. That's not a spoiler. It's in the trailers. Don't shoot me for this. But that's really not what the movie is about. The movie is actually, like I said, a love letter to Hollywood, but also the story of Cliff Booth and Rick Dalton. Rick Dalton's character is played by Leonardo DiCaprio. Cliff Booth is played by Brad Pitt. Do you really need any more reasons to go watch this movie? I don't think so. In any case, I will continue on. These two guys, play the hell out of these characters. So there's a lot to watch. There's this great chemistry between the two of them. There's this great understanding of each other's space and state, and not just in the movie, but outside the movie, an acknowledgement of where they are in life. Again, not just in the movie, but outside of the movie that you can see in the movie. I don't know if that makes sense, but when you think of two huge stars like these two coming together, probably two of the biggest stars in the world, maybe barring Tom Cruise and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I guess. But when you think of these two with so much history coming together in a movie, you kind of, if it's really not a relationship or a friendship or a connection that is honest, it shows on the screen. And in this case, the honest chemistry shows on the screen, and their respect, if not love, respect for each other. I don't know if they're buddies in real life. I don't think so, but kudos to Quentin Tarantino for bringing these two together. I don't always love Quentin Tarantino movies, I'm going to be honest, but I greatly admire him as a director and a storyteller, and I think that he has a great sort of sense of style and grasp on his art, and he definitely has his signature style. So if you do not like his signature style, then you may not like this one. But I will tell you this, that if you go into this, just go in with your popcorn and your alcoholic drink, or if you're in one of those bad areas where AMC is still not serving alcohol, not bad areas in the sense that, bad areas, but just bad areas in the sense that, like, oh, why is AMC not selling alcohol in your theater, sort of bad areas, then go in with your soda or pop or whatever you call it. But chill out. Just relax in your seat and watch this. Just hang out, because this is a hangout movie. You're watching these two brilliant performers perform, and really just Quentin Tarantino putting the camera at different spots and letting the actors just do their thing. Unlike other movies where there's a lot of, I wouldn't say gimmick, but a lot of things happening, a lot of actions happening in Tarantino movies, there's a lot of plot points and things like that. This one really doesn't have that much. It's just a very simple narrative of how these two get involved in something that the world has known to be one of the most gruesome things to happen in the American film industry. And so that brings me to Sharon Tate. Margot Robbie is really good, but she's in it for not much. So some people have been a little hurt about that. I don't think I am, really. I don't care. I care about her as an actress, but I don't care about her character as much in the story, because this story with what Tarantino is trying to say is more so about these two characters, and Rick Dalton dealing with somewhat of a midlife actor crisis, and Cliff Booth sort of being this enigma, this guy who probably has done a lot of wrong in his life, but the version of him that you're seeing seems so right that you are just caught up in this dilemma of who the are you? But that's who you're going to watch. That's who Tarantino wants you to watch. It's the Sharon Tate sort of murder is just I would say like a point of singularity in the story of the movie. Okay, I'm not going to say any more. I feel like I've given a lot as it is. I've talked about this movie for about 8 minutes. Go watch it. It's in the theaters. You will be doing yourself a huge favor by doing so. Okay, now for the next recommendation. This one kind of bothers me that not a lot of people talk about, or at least talk enough about. And I am specifically bringing this to your attention right now because I am so freaking disappointed that it has gotten such few Emmy nominations, and especially very few in the acting categories. The name of the show is Succession, and it can be found on HBO. So the turd that was the last season of Game of Thrones, and if you think it wasn't, then you are wrong. After it left, the second season of Succession started, and I was so excited that it did come back because it kind of put my faith back into HBO's ability to create really good original content. Succession is the story of a quote-unquote fictional family called the Royco family, or basically the owner of Waystar Royco, which is a international media conglomerate. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It is very similar to the Fox conglomerate, which was owned by Murdoch family until recently, when Disney kind of ate up a chunk of it. Okay, so the movie is about the plans of the head of Waystar Royco, who's also the head of the family, played by Brian Cox, and his lack of plans of stepping aside, and his scheming, sometimes borderline bipolar, sometimes borderline evil kids trying to take over the reins of the entire conglomerate. And of course there's some side characters, but it's really about, wait for it, the succession and some constant inner family battle and drama, really juicy drama. So if you really enjoy if you actually enjoyed everything that the first 3 or 4 seasons of Game of Thrones was, which was really a lot of scheming and politics, you need to watch this because it is all about that. And if you're wondering why I'm constantly comparing it to Game of Thrones, it is because it is, except for the fantasy and the magic and the surreal and all of that stuff, and dragons, of course, except for all of that, it's everything that at least I loved about Game of Thrones, which is a bunch of people trying to get on top of that Iron Throne and being ruthless to everyone else, whether they're family or not. And so this one is borderline in that space, and it's directed and co-created by Adam McKay, who is the director for Big Shot and Vice. He also has made movies like Anchorman and Talladega Nights. And so this guy, I was really not that into him until he made The Big Short. And The Big Short is what opened my sort of eyes towards his style of storytelling. And then with The Vice, which some of you might remember, it was one of my favorites. Well, it was my favorite from last year. He kind of blew into this reality of mine where he's become one of my top 10 directors in the American film industry. And so I think that this story and his style of telling it are they're meant to be together. And the performances, oh my God, Brian Cox, of course, Kieran Culkin, Jeremy Strong, Sarah Snook, Matthew McFadden, Alan Ruck, Nicholas Braun, they're all great. They're I don't know how to say it, but the casting is just perfect. So the series is in its second season, and it's halfway through its second season, and there's only 8 episodes. So if you're looking for a series to watch, and if you enjoy the scheming and the politics and the lifestyle of the rich and these people who are crying about not having the CEO position when they have billions of dollars at their exposure. You know, you need to watch this because this one is it is posh people problems. That's what I call it, posh people problems. But it's done in such a dramatic and a juicy way that it's, you know, relentlessly entertaining. Okay, with that, we finish our English recommendations and take a quick break. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this. Alright guys, welcome back. We are talking film recommendations, well, actually, content recommendations, and we just completed the English recommendation. So the English ones, just to remind you, were Succession for a series to go binge on HBO, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to go catch in your theaters near you. So, let's move on to Hindi recommendations. Our first recommendation is a little-known movie that came out with a breakout star director at the helm of it, Ritesh Batra. He directed Lunchbox a couple years ago, the Irfan Khan, Nawazuddin Siddiqui, and Nimrat Kaur. The movie was loved by many and was a really good box office success. And Ritesh Batra was almost, you know, regarded as the sort of the next star director to watch out for. And then he went on to make two movies in United Kingdom that I don't think a lot of people watched. And they were vaguely well rated, but I don't think I watched either. I'm pretty sure I haven't watched. Until he made Photograph, which is what I'm about to recommend you. So it's not in the theaters. It actually was very briefly in the theaters, but it's on Amazon Prime, so you can very easily watch it because most of you listening, I know, have a Prime subscription. So it's included with Prime, and if you just Google Photograph, it'll show up. The movie is about a photographer who is pressured by his grandmother to get married. He's a struggling street photographer who convinces a shy stranger to pose as his fiancée. You know, as is with most romantic dramas, they soon develop an unexpected bond that transforms both of them in ways they could not have imagined. It's a very simple plot line, and it's one that, you know, if you're in the state of, you know, nostalgia, longing, or just, you know, want to watch something that just makes you kind of feel cathartic with that melancholic feeling peppered in. This is a good watch. Don't watch it if you're looking for some fast-paced Hobbs and Shaw stupid-ass action thriller. This is definitely not one of those. And also don't watch the trailer, because I think that, well, if you haven't heard of this movie and if you haven't already watched the trailer, don't watch it, because I think the trailer kind of gives away the tone of the movie. And I think if you go in sort of blind about the tone of the movie, I think you might enjoy it a little bit more. Just know that it's a little bit of a serious and it's a relaxed sort of take on these two characters. It's more of a character study. So you have Nawazuddin Siddiqui playing the male lead, who's the photographer, Rafi. And then you have Sanya Malhotra, who's playing Miluni Shah, who's the stranger he has posing as his fiancée. She is actually a Gujarati who is a very smart girl who is topping her CPA studies. And they're both, of course, they're from different walks of life and they have different desires from life. But in each other, they find the completion of the loneliness they felt in themselves. And that's what's so sort of wistful about the movie, but also so, like I said earlier, melancholic. You watch these characters over the period of, 2 hours, really grow into these full-blown personalities for each other and what they mean for each other. But as the audience too, as the movie progresses, Ritesh is giving you like bite-sized pieces of what you can consume about who these characters are. So it's a very interesting, I feel like it's a very interesting journey that you traverse with the characters. And I also want to mention that if you love Mumbai, if you are from Mumbai, if you miss Mumbai, you should watch this movie, because so much of this Mumbai, and actually its third very important character is Mumbai, and that's something to be said about that, because I think he does a very good job with atmospherics, and even with Lunchbox, I felt that, you know, you could truly smell the food, you could truly eat the food, and here too, you can actually feel the loneliness in these giant crowds. Like, there's shots of Gateway of India, and, you know, within the bus, BST buses, you can see, you know, crowded buses and things like that, and yet you feel for Nawazuddin and Sanya Malhotra's characters' loneliness, and I really liked it. It connected in a way that not a lot of movies this year have. So I highly recommend it. If you've got the time, please check it out on Prime. It's not that difficult, and especially if you're in that mood. If you're in the mood to consume something that is light on content, light on plot, and heavy on character study, and also a slow burn, something that just really grows on you as it continues. All right, with that, we move on to our last recommendation for this episode, which is a Hindi series that you have probably already watched. Yeah, this is the one that I'm confident a lot of you listeners have already watched, and this is Sacred Games Season 2. I may have plugged Sacred Games once before, but I'm not really sure if I have, but it's a show that has really pioneered good content-based TV show narratives in India. And you might argue that it was Inside Edge or Mirzapur or Breathe or Made in Heaven, and I will say yes. All of it has. Sacred Games just got a lot more exposure and got it really fast. If you watch the first season of Sacred Games, it's the story of Nawazuddin Siddique's character, which is Ganesh Gaitwande, and Saif Ali Khan's character, Sartaj Singh, who come again from different walks of life, but Sartaj Singh is a police officer who receives an anonymous tip about the location of a criminal overlord who is Ganesh Gaitwande. And as he embarks on finding him, he embarks upon a chase around Mumbai into chaos and, you know, trappings of a corrupt underground world, where, you know, one onion peel after another, you find out that this is greater than Sartaj or even Ganesh Gaitwande could have thought of, and really, there's certain things that happen in the first few episodes where you're kind of just sucked into this world, because, and I'm really trying to not giving too much, but just enough to know that this is heavily based in Mumbai, at least the first season, and it really does well in kind of building out a narrative that is holistic in many, many ways, and when you watch it, you will understand it, but it's a very dark series. So there's a lot of nudity, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of abusive language and content. So if you have kids around you, do not watch this. Wait for them to go to sleep or something, or watch it on your iPad. But watch it, because it's a very good watch for seeing how these two directors, Vikramaditya Motwani and Anurag Kashyap, these two of them have created a niche for them in the world of Indian content. And you can really see how Saif Ali Khan is coming into his own as an actor and not just a star. And I say star a little lightly because I don't think he is that big of a star anymore, but that I think has liberated him in some way because he performs the shit out of this. He's great. And Nawazuddin is Nawazuddin. There's nothing he can do wrong. I kind of wish he was doing a little bit more outside of the norm of his characters, but I can also see why people keep just offering him that stuff. Anyway, so the second season just came out, and that reminded me of, pleading to you guys to watch it if you haven't already. The second season has gotten a little bit of flack. So the story is based on a book by Vikram Chandra, who is Anupama Chopra's brother, by the same name. And the second season, to some, seems like there isn't a lot happening. I disagree. I think there is a lot happening in the second season. I just think that the style is slightly different because Neeraj Gehwan is making it, and you can sense that he's trying to say the story or narrate the story in the style of Vikramaditya Motwani and Anurag Kashyap, and that's where I think it kind of falters. But the story is still entertaining. I just wish it was edited a little better. Anyways, watch it. It's a good series. It's one that if you are looking for something that is Hindi, high concept, good content, well told, well acted, performed, and good background music, I think you will not be disappointed by this one. Okay, so our Hindi recommendations, just to kind of recap them, have been Photograph, that is available on Prime, it's a movie, and Sacred Games, a TV show that is available on Netflix. No one says TV show anymore. A series that is available on Netflix for you to consume. With that, we come to the end of this episode, and I am, again, supremely grateful that you have stuck around with me. And again, if you have, please like, share, subscribe, rate, review, comment, all of those. Join us on our Facebook community. I have made promises before that I did not keep. This time around, though, I promise to be back soon. Until then, have a good one.